Need a reminder of the good in the world? How about ways that you can make a difference, all while following your passions? Then you've come to the right place. Here on Be the Good with Kate, I have the honor of speaking with people from across the globe and such a wide array of backgrounds, all with the common bond of following what lights them up while making the world a better place along the way. My name is Kate Chericello Tente, and I am so grateful you are here. If something in this episode resonates with you, please reach out. I absolutely love hearing from you. And if you're willing to spread the word, sharing these good news moments with others, a share on social, comment, review, or a text to a friend about Be the Good with Kate, all goes such a long way. Thank you. I've learned so much from all the guests on Be the Good with Kate over the years, and I hope you leave here with some nuggets that stay with you too. Here's to making the world a better place in any way, shape, or form. Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate. Today, I'm happy to introduce you to Dr. Lynette Fraga. She is the owner of Fiercely Forward, LLC. She is a leadership coach, strategic consultant, and speaker with over 30 years experience working in mission-driven organizations, including community-based and national nonprofits, higher education, federal programs, and a tech startup. Her career trajectory took her from teaching in an early childhood classroom to being the CEO of the national nonprofit organization Childcare Aware. She was inspired to support other nonprofit executives, particularly women of color, helping organizations fulfill their missions by putting people at the center of solutions and honoring diverse perspectives. Lynette, thanks so much for being here today.
I'm so happy to be with you, Kate. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wonderful. And it's one of those things too, where I love when different connections and different pieces of life come back into your life at different times. So Lynette was connected to me by Meg Bialis, who I met at Butler University so many years ago. And we had stayed in touch over the years via LinkedIn mostly. And she reached out to me about Lynette saying, I have this wonderful guest for you. And I'm so excited to hear more, Lynette.
I'm excited to be here, truly. And I have an affinity for Meg too. She's terrific.
She is indeed. So I think the first question I really want to ask you is, did you know that what you are doing could be a job? You know, reading about on your website, this idea that you created your whole own, and I want you to give more details about what you are doing, you know, instead of me just reading your website. It's so interested with Fiercely Forward LLC. But did you know this could be a job, you know, when you first started out?
No, I did not. I did not, Kate. This was not on my vision board, frankly. When I actually began in early childhood education, which you can tell a little bit in my bio. I really started and always centered my work in children and families issues, particularly those that have been marginalized.
Mhm.
And I grew up as a middle daughter to three daughters in our family, and a military family. My dad was in the military for over 30 years. And I grew up all over the United States and overseas. So my education, and I'm the first one in my family to attend university. So this was really, my sort of future was not at all, there was no roadmap for the direction that I landed in. But I was really committed always to service. And as I sort of went on my career trajectory and landed at Childcare Aware of America, after a decade there, which I loved, being there was a tremendous opportunity for me, and I learned so much, and I really appreciated that time. At about 10 years, and this was after the pandemic, a couple years after the pandemic, I decided I needed a minute.
Mhm.
And that minute turned into a year, which was not at all my intention that I set out for. But where I landed in creating Fiercely Forward was, again, not in my head when I stepped down. It really took a lot of deliberateness, a lot of reflection, a lot of intention setting, a lot of walks,
Yeah.
a lot of reading, a lot of conversations with people, but a lot of time in my head and in my writing. And that's how I really landed on this space. The idea of really being aligned with who I am and what I wanted to give and what I wanted to give back. And that's how Fiercely Forward came about.
So what is your day to day? You know, you have a client. What do you talk through? What do you discover with the mission?
Yeah, yeah. So, I decided, as someone who had been through, and you named this in my bio statement, I've worked in a lot of different arenas. I've worked in higher education. I've worked in the nonprofit sector. I've been a federal staff member working for the United States Army. I've done a lot of different things. And one of the things that I noted along the way was really trying to seek out mentorship, seek out sponsorship, seek out others who had similar or at least passion aligned experiences, that also had a similar cultural and lived experience background as my own. And it was tough to find. And don't get me wrong, I had wonderful mentors along the way. But to really do that deep dive and to really reflect with somebody about what the art of the possible was in my own career and life, I was missing that. And as I grew in my career, I understood even more how important that is to so like to your daily, but also to really understand your direction, where you wanted to go. And so with Fiercely Forward, my intention is partnering with particularly women of color leaders in the nonprofit sector who are doing all the things every day, putting out fires, trying to obtain grants, trying to figure out how to support their staff and support their community and engage. And my work is really to have those discussions with nonprofit leaders about their whole selves. How are they showing up in their whole selves? And it's a wonderful opportunity for me to show up in a way that I feel I can uniquely do. And that was another really important intention that I set out when I created Fiercely Forward, is like asking myself that question: how can I uniquely show up in this moment? What are my passions and gifts? And how can I give back? And in my experience, yeah.
That's something I love hearing too, and it's such an important reminder what we each have as unique gifts. And something that's been so great about this podcast too is I know my eyes are opened every time I hear from someone of like, oh wow, they found this like tiny little niche that I had no idea existed and they made it a whole career, or maybe not career, but a passion project. And there are countless ways that we can all make a positive difference that also fulfills our soul. So I love when I hear different ways that people have found ways to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah, it's been wonderful. It really has been. And I can say I'm really in this space of ongoing learning too, which is, I have been through, I love school, and I've continued to attend school, and I continue to learn, and I appreciate the fact that I too, and I'm seeing a fellow learner in front of me, Kate, with you, is that I
Yes.
just really love to get curious about people. And I think that has a lot to do with my military childhood upbringing. I attended 10 schools. And, before I graduated from high school, I lived all over the United States and overseas. And yes, as I see your face, it is tough, right? It's hard. And what I really gained from that experience is the ability to be able to get curious about different communities, different people, different cultures, different ways of thinking, different ways of approaching to both challenges and opportunities. And I've taken that into my own leadership, and how I show up as a leader. And I really appreciate that narrative and those narratives in other people's lives, and how that really shapes who they are as leaders in their work.
I feel like this has come up a lot in the podcast recently, but the more curious all of us are, how much better off are we all? Like if everyone just asked questions before they jump to conclusions and sought those just that expansion of what's possible. And I love your mantra of the art of the possible. There is so
Yes.
much to learn. There is so much to learn. It's endless.
That's right. That's right. There are those endless possibilities. And I think as being exposed to so many different experiences as a kid, I think really opened up that
It's great.
um, sort of opportunity for me to see things in a lot of different ways. And I've really appreciated that. And that's a part of who I am.
And now that you're doing your own whole own business, how do people, I kind of want to ask from each side, how do people find you? And then, but then on the flip side, how might you find people? You know, how does someone know they need your services or know how to find you? Like that
Oh,
that's
that's
even a
such a
possibility. And then on the flip side of that.
Yeah, that's such a great question. Particularly as a coach, so I do coaching. I also do strategic advising for nonprofits as well as doing speaking. Um, and I think that honestly, when people find me, they're not necessarily sure what it is that I do or that they even need me, right?
Right.
That support. So it's again going back to that curiosity,
Mhm.
right? One of my underlying mantras about the work that I do is that each individual person brings their own wisdom.
Mm.
My job is only to be a container and an amplifier for the wisdom they already hold, and create space for that to happen. And oftentimes we don't offer ourselves space for that to happen. And so we sort of spin, right? We spin in place and we have the same narrative or the same storyline going over and over and over again. And so sometimes people reach out because they have a particular problem. They're trying to you sort of assess what's going on in their organization or themselves as leaders, or why, wanting to continue to climb whatever kind of ladder they might think they want to climb, or they might want to have different sets of professional experiences. And so oftentimes folks will be referred to me to have that conversation. What we do at the very outset, honestly, is try and do an assessment of sorts about like what and where you're spending your time and energy, and where are you not, and how do we get from where you are to where you want to be. So it's sort of like that gap conversation, right?
Sure.
And it can be on any number of issues. I think, and really another really important thing to consider when folks access my services is that you sort of go into this open. And oftentimes what you feel is, quote, the problem is often not. There's often something that we have to really pull higher up in setting intention and goals and vision for yourself in the future. And it's so exciting, Kate, to go on, to sort of partner with people on this journey as they have their epiphanies and their aha moments, and take those risks or make those decisions. And most importantly, it's really special to see people tap into their own wisdom and really recognize and understand that it's sort of like, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. It's been there all of the time, right?
Yes.
It's just sort of making space for that to happen.
Oh, that's excellent. And what is the most surprising element of where you are in life now? Like
Oh
you've done
gosh.
so much.
The most surprising element for where I am right now is that when I did step down from CEO of Child Care Aware of America, um, many people thought I had a plan, Kate, that there was a plan, that there was some next thing. And to not have a plan was pretty scary. So I think my first surprise was, wow, I'm really doing this and I don't have a plan. My only plan is to figure out where I am, like center myself and really figure out what I wanted and what my next thing was going to be. Again, answering that question, how can I be uniquely in service? And that was the big question for me to respond to. I really thought I was going to do another CEO gig. I really thought that was, very likely for me in my path. And as I went through my own process and did a lot of reflecting and writing, and we could go on and on. I know we've had another guest to talk about sabbaticals and breaks and all of those things, which were great and wonderful, wonderful conversations. I think what surprises me most is that I did not realize I could shape where it was that I wanted to spend my time and energy in service to others. I That was not a frame that I had taken in. I had always thought that I would match up to an external, whether it was an organization or a position or a job, I would match up to that, right?
Yeah.
I would be magnetized like a magnet to a particular job or role. And what I came to understand over a lot of reflection is that I had an inner passion and inner intention. I was really, really committed to issues related to equity and inclusion and supporting those that are doing such great work, with all of the stresses and the challenges and the pressures that many don't necessarily raise up, which is why I love your podcast. That, it's hard work. And I've been there. And to be able to create a seat where I was able to create this space, um, to focus all my energy there is both a dream and not one I could have illustrated a year ago at all.
I love that. I think it's so wonderful to just keep sharing stories like yours because people so often get stuck, right? I'm sure you hear stories all the time, even with your clients, where they're, I don't know, I feel like there's something more, but how can I get off of this? I mean, overused cliche of the hamster wheel
Yeah.
type of thing, right? The comfort of a job or the security of a job, but when you know something else is calling to you and you did it, you stepped away, and oh my gosh, you stepped away with, like you said, out a plan, and that's incredible.
Yeah, so it was a big risk. I felt like super risky, and at the same time, very pulled. And I think you mentioned something too about sort of how people enter into this conversation, either with me or with themselves, or others that are in this space. It's values alignment is what came up for me when I heard you talking, because that's often the tension often comes when you're stepping on your values, right? And you're not maybe not even sure that you're stepping on it, and that there's something that doesn't feel quite right, and you've got to sort of
Mm.
like pull the thread on why does this not feel right for me? What is it that is creating tension or stress or friction? What is getting me stuck or I'm moving, but I'm moving in one place, like on a hamster wheel, which I think is a really great metaphor, even if overused.
Right, cliche for a reason.
Right,
Yes.
exactly, exactly. But this idea of really getting clear
Mm.
and revisiting value alignment, I think can be super useful. It has been for me, and really trying to determine where it is and how it is that I want to move forward, and importantly, why it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's so needed. I mean, heck, even just doing this podcast, that's exactly what it was. It was a lot of thinking about, well, what do I really want? What's a big goal? And waiting for someone else to pull me in or just doing it. And I love when you said pull the string. I got this great visual of you pull the string and you start to unravel where you are meant to be and your feelings about it and the fears and the excitement and all of it.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. And often we don't have the space for that. And I think that's what's really important is like the space and the relationships for you to safely be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is vulnerability, internal vulnerability and vulnerability with others. I
Yes.
can say when, whether it was when I was a single mom and having to sort of navigate the world, and caring for two young children by myself. Oh my gosh, talk about overwhelm and feeling like every step was, could make the difference, right?
That was actually going to be my last question to you. Was I'm so glad you brought that up. And I wasn't sure. I was like, we're just going to have to do a total pivot because I have to ask you about this because you had mentioned it in our back and forth chat. Like you are a single mom for 10 years. And like anyone listening, read the bio of Lynette and you'll see you're like, where did that fit in? Because there is so much on your bio already. Can you just expand more on that time in your life if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, of course. Yeah. So, I became a single mom when my youngest was a year and a half and my oldest had just turned 5. And, it was a moment where I really was unclear about how to take my next steps, and put one foot in front of the other. These moments really do shake you in a lot of ways, of course. And as I was thinking about what are some moments that have shaped me, this is one of those
Mm.
moments. And where reflection and intention was super important, and like really getting clear about um, not only, I mean, I was young too, right? And so like I was learning about myself while also being needing to be present for my kids.
Wow.
And community was super important in that. I had an amazing community of friends.
Okay.
And I think, again, back to the critical component of relationship in people's
Mhm.
life, relationships are super important. And having the safe space to be vulnerable and to also be championed and supported and cheerleaded. In many ways, it very much mirrors the kinds of things that I show up for others today, right? Because I know how it feels and I know how tough things can be. I do have to tell you one thing, Kate, that happened during the time that I was this single mom. You're like, what were those 10 years like?
Yeah.
It was work. It was work. It was love. It was beautiful and amazing. And now they're adult children that are doing well. And actually, one is getting married in a couple of weeks, which is
Uh,
like unbelievable to me. But, one thing that happened during that time, I do have my PhD. I earned my doctorate while I was a single mom. And
wow.
I took 6 weeks off of work to finish it up because I needed to get it done. I was up against that deadline where I needed to get it done. So I'm like, I have to literally just spend 24/7 hammering this thing out. So one night, it was very late, writing until all hours of the morning, about 1:07-ish in the morning or so, blank
No.
computer screen.
No, 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 no.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Everything was gone. All my data, all my writing, all of the things. I have my preschool, my kindergartner in one room and my, infant essentially in the other room. And 1 o'clock in the morning, and everything was gone off of my computer.
No.
That is one of those moments, Kate, where you like take a deep breath, tears start streaming down your face, and I did not know what I was going to do.
Oh
Um,
my
and
God.
it was really overwhelming. And I did get through that. And I knew for the next 7.5 hours until such time as I was able to get a computer expert into my house to be able to, and I didn't know what was going to happen for those
Yeah.
7.5 hours. I really had to like take a deep breath and think, okay, how am I going to get through this moment? Right. And yeah, I
Gosh.
felt everything falling apart and I was in super crisis mode. I was able to recover
Oh, thank
all
goodness.
of the data. That's the end of the story. The
Woo!
end of the story is I was able to recover all the data and I was able to get that PhD. But that moment of like holding your breath,
Oh my God.
all had those moments
Yeah.
of holding our breath, right? And what did I do during that moment? I called my sister. I had my support system. I saw what was important. I visited my children's rooms,
Uh,
kissed them on the forehead, and had to like center myself on whatever will be, and I will push through. And I've got my people, and I've got my family, and yeah. So
wow. I think I'm still like trying to comprehend the fact that you got your PhD while not only having one child, but two children and being a single mom. Because right now I have a 1.5-year-old and I'm like, how could I do that? Like, I've got none of the like additional child and
yeah,
all of that. Like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. I think I honestly say there's, people are incredibly resilient
Yes.
and I really honor that. There is a lot of hard. And I just, for all of your audience too, um, there is resilience. There's a lot of hard. There's a lot of need, a lot of needed support, a lot of amazing people out there that are like that show up for you. like Mr. Rogers says, like, find your heroes, right? Find the heroes,
I love Mr.
find the
Rogers.
helpers. I think
Yes,
is what he says, find the
find the
helpers,
helpers.
right? And like, I think through it all over the years, if anything that I've learned in all of the many places that I lived and all of the many jobs that I've held and all of the tremendous opportunities I've had, and challenges like losing your data, um, I find the helpers.
Mm,
And that takes a level of vulnerability, and a level of understanding that we cannot do it alone,
yes.
and creating community. Yeah.
Lynette, that was such a beautiful way to just wrap it all up here. I can't thank you enough for being here. And please tell everybody where they can find you online to continue the conversation, to reach out to you. Where can they find
Yes.
you?
Yes. So people can see me and find me on my website at fiercelyforwardleadership.com. And also on LinkedIn. That's the social media I use, and that's Lynette Fraga, PhD.
Excellent. And that'll all be written in the show notes too if you're driving right now and can't write it down. Lynette, thank you. This was such a just boost of a time here to be together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was great to be here with you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this helpful, a 5-star review, like, or comment means the world to me. And if you found insight in this episode, chances are someone else will too. Share with a friend to give them a boost today. Until next time, I'm Kate Cherichella-Tente, and this was Be the Good with Kate.